again, we can always recognize platonic love versus sexual love or romantic love, if you'd rather put it like that. All right, today I want to read and react to this article that I found on The Atlantic called "We've Been Thinking About Love All Wrong" by Suleika Jaouad. That's my best guess at pronouncing that name. But before I read what they have to say about how we've misunderstood love, give this video a like, comment what you think about love, and subscribe for daily videos. Show this channel some love if you appreciate what I'm doing here. Anyway, let's get to the article. When I first entered the kingdom of the sick, I wasn't interested in befriending my fellow denizens. Only 22, with a limited understanding of grave illness or loss. I found the idea of a cancer support group for young adults wholly depressing, and I didn't want to get too comfortable with the identity of the cancer patient. Unsurprisingly, a year into my treatment, I was as isolated and lonely as I'd ever been in my life. Best guess, I'm gonna guess you didn't want to feel like you were playing the victim or play up the victimhood or lean into your victimhood because, let's face it, you are legitimately a victim of cancer in this case, so I wouldn't blame you for leaning into it or anything like that. But also, I respect you for not wanting to be seen as just a cancer patient because, let's face it, I'm pretty sure everyone here can admit that we would start to only really see the illness if someone brings that up rather than anything else. Subconsciously, but it would definitely still happen. Back to the article. When it came to friendship, I had always prioritized quantity over quality. Attending 6 schools on 3 continents before the age of 12 meant that I was skilled at quickly forming friendships, but not necessarily at sustaining them. While moving around, I maintained pen pal correspondences with my best friend Molly in upstate New York, and my best friend Rania in Tunisia, and my best friend Eleanor in Switzerland, but without a clear idea of when, or even if, we'd see each other again. And with all the address changes, our letters would peter out. The message I took from it was that relationships have a shelf life. Very true. At a certain point, relationships can fade over time if you don't put in the work. Obviously, they were putting in the work with letters and such. I'm guessing this was a longer time ago because today there would be social media, texting, email. Even those, they can peter out over time. I'm not just talking about ghosting people. In college, I was a social butterfly, flitting from group to group, making fast but not necessarily deep friendships. Many of those friends disappeared when I got sick, and I felt hurt, angry, and betrayed. With time, I came to realize it wasn't some huge failing on their part. Of course, the people I played beer pong with were not at my bedside when my hair was falling out. To sustain a relationship through that kind of crisis requires stronger bonds. Then one day, I was sitting in the hospital waiting room when a woman with a knit ski cap over her bald head and a face mask across hollow cheeks fell into the chair next to mine. Her name was Anjali, and she was pretty and petite, with tawny skin and a beaked nose like mine. Though shorter than me and frail from months of bed rest, she exuded fierceness. I know who you are, she said with a trace of an Indian accent. You write that fucking column. What she meant was, hello, it's nice to meet you. I simply wasn't good at reading between her lines yet. Over time, we traded stories and learned that we had many in common. Stories of immigration, of being the only kid on the first day of school who didn't speak English, of feeling like a misfit wherever we went. I learned that her parents were dead, and she was estranged from her brother, who'd never returned her call about being her bone marrow donor. I came to understand that was why she wore so much armor. She felt she had to protect herself to survive. Yeah, when your support network is virtually non existent, like Anjali's apparently was, you may feel more inclined to do that. Even people with more of a support network who want to feel empowered will probably do that. Anjali and I also shared the same diagnosis. We did the same chemotherapy regimens at Mount Sinai Hospital, administered by the same doctors. We both transferred to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center to undergo bone marrow transplants around the same time. 100 days post transplant, we both received our biopsy results. Mine came back clean, no sign of leukemia. Hers showed that she had already relapsed, and further treatment was not an option. By then I was 24. I had never been a caregiver, much less accompanied someone as they neared the end, but I understood the pain of having people not show up. And here was an opportunity for me to show up. For the next few months, I brought Anjali food, went with her to doctor appointments, and brought her home with me on holidays. Then, when she got too sick and weak to live at home alone, I called an ambulance to take her to Bellevue Hospital's hospice ward. Okay, this might take kind of a sad turn. When the ambulance arrived, Anjali looked at me and howled. She called me a traitor, said I was a terrible friend, said that she hated me, but I didn't take it personally. I know how fear and pain could make you angry. I myself had lashed out at loved ones in ways that I hadn't known I was capable of before illness. I understood that her rage was not toward me, but toward a world in which she had never fully belonged, a world from which she'd soon be gone. I rode with her in the back of that ambulance, and for the next week I held a round the clock vigil by her bedside. The day before she died, Melissa and Max, whom I'd also befriended in treatment, and another friend named MJ, who was a cancer survivor and who may or may not have volunteered as our weed supplier in those pre medical marijuana days, joined me there. A talented musician, MJ brought a guitar, a Shruti box, and a harmonica and played a few songs, including Love More by Sharon Van Etten. We all sang along. She made me love, she made me love, she made me love more. And Anjali was so close to the veil that her hearing was failing. I didn't know whether she could actually hear the music or she was only seeing us experience it, but it seemed to make her happy. I remember a nurse watching us from the hallway. Later, she told me that in all her years of working in hospice, she had never seen that before. Other young people with bald heads and waifish bodies ushering a fellow patient through their final days. I understood why she was taken by the sight. To watch anyone die is scary. And it's even scarier when you watch someone die from the same disease that might kill you. No one would have blamed us for avoiding it, but we were all struck by the fact that Anjali had no family. Her great fear was that she would die alone, and we wouldn't let that happen. That's definitely the sad turn that I expected, but hey, it just goes to show that it's a good thing to have some kind of community around you. Being with Anjali through those days remains one of the most harrowingly beautiful and meaningful experiences of my life. I felt like I got to meet Anjali the child, the Anjali who had not yet been hurt, betrayed, or abandoned by the world. She softened, she became calm. Every time her eyelids fluttered open, she would reach for my hand. She was so skinny, and her big, dark brown eyes seemed even bigger by contrast. Tender, open, unarmored, she seemed paradoxically healed. I would guess emotionally healed would have been an accurate description for that because, unfortunately, companionship does not cure cancer. It cures loneliness, and it can definitely boost your spirits, but again, obviously, it can't cure cancer. When we think of love, we think of romance and happily ever after fairy tales. By telling this story, I want to invoke something different. The radical power of seeing, understanding, and showing up for another human. As Elaine de Botton writes in A Therapeutic Journey, the word love is so fatefully associated with romance and sentimentality that we overlook its critical role in helping us to keep faith with life at times of overwhelming psychological confusion and sorrow. I mean, we have a term for it. It's called platonic love. So as long as we're able to separate romantic love and platonic love, I think that we could do better on that by clarifying which kind it is. Platonic versus sexual love, as Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy put it. That actually reminds me of the scene from Volume 2. You feel love. Yeah, I guess some kind of general. No! Sexual love. For her! You just had your deepest, darkest secret revealed. You must be so embarrassed. I remember when Marvel movies were actually good and not just decent good like Thunderbolts. Back to the article. In the 4 years I spent in treatment, illness took a toll. I lost my romantic relationship, my sense of self, and my trust in the future. I lost friends. Anjali, then Melissa, then Max. I was in deep grief, and I felt an almost primal impulse to shut down, to retreat like a wounded animal. I thought, if I never get close to anyone again, I will never be heard again. Wait a minute, weren't Molly and Max part of the group that was visiting Anjali? Huh, it was. Guess the mutual cancer survivor bond didn't last. That or old habits came back up. Back to the article. But I had learned another lesson too. Illness had taught me how much we need one another, how we come into this world needing so much care, how we die needing so much care, how we get from how we get that from the people we love and who love us, our family, blood or chosen, our partners, our friends, our communities. That's why the Tim Pools and Think Before You Sleeps of the world are saying people need to have kids. It's one of the arguments from the people who are arguing against the child free, which, as I said in another video, I hate that term because it implies that it's technically possible to completely remove children from your life when nieces, nephews, first cousins once removed. For those of you who don't know, that's the son or daughter of your first cousin, etc. Children of friends. I mean, unless you cut those friends off because they had children and therefore aren't able to do all the exact same things that you used to be able to do. But the likes of them always say you should have children for the sake of having someone to take care of you when you're older. Frankly, I don't think that's a bad sentiment. I think there's a good argument to be had that it increases the likelihood of that, but it's no guarantee. You can still do everything right, and then, for all you know, oh, you might end up outliving that child. I can vouch for this because my grandparents on my mom's side have outlived two of their five children. Unfortunately, things like that happen. There's no word for it because it's unthinkable, but also it happens from time to time. Happened way more back in like the 18th, 19th centuries because medicine wasn't where it's at now. See, that's why Alexander Hamilton actually had two sons named Philip. His firstborn, then after his firstborn died, he eventually had another son that he named Philip. Yes, there were two Philip Hamiltons who were both the sons of Alexander Hamilton. But anyway, the point is, yes, having children increases your odds of having someone to take care of you if you're elderly in a situation like the author of this article. In the author's case, started age 22, 4 years of treatment through the age of 26. I get the sense that Anjali was, I forget if she said she was a similar age or older or younger, but it just goes to show that things don't always work out perfectly. But that being said, again, I can admit that if someone has children, has multiple children, does everything right, it increases the odds of having someone to take care of you when they're older. And that's assuming they're not drawn into a cult or they don't go no contact for one reason or another. I was about to cite specific examples from my life, but that would be saying too much. I can't think of how to keep it non identifying at the moment. So let's just get back to the article. But I had learned another lesson too. Illness had taught me how much We need one another. Oh, wait, I already read that part. I know I knew I had to keep turning toward love and other people to navigate my grief and uncertainty. Loneliness is a health issue. Studies show that social isolation is associated with a greater risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. And that being socially disconnected can have the same impact as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. As far back as 2017, the US Surgeon General at the time, Vivek Murthy, began calling attention to loneliness, arguing that we can live healthier, more fulfilled lives by strengthening our relationships. Answer that phone call from a friend, he wrote in a 2023 report. Make time to share a meal. Listen without the distraction of your phone. Perform an act of service. Each of these proposed actions is, at its core, an act of generosity. Be fully present, listen, give of yourself to another human. Of course, this can't be done without a transactional mentality. People can sense whether you're helping them only to make them obligated to help you, and that feels terrible. What I'm talking about is connecting with another human as an end in itself. It's knowing someone simply to know them. Anjali died on Valentine's Day. The last word she said to me was love. And it points out that this essay was adapted from the Book of Alchemy. Okay, that was pretty emotionally intense. I know I'm not crying or anything, but still, I'm like trying to think of something to say because, again, we can always recognize platonic love versus sexual love or romantic love, if you'd rather put it like that. And as many the black pillars say, yeah, at a certain point, most human interactions are transactional. I try to frame the more transactional sides as a bonus. For example, I strive to be kind to everyone where possible, or at least not confrontational, for the sake of not alienating someone and having one less person I can call upon in an emergency. Like, for example, 3 years ago next June, one of my Henriotti members was very nice to drive me to two different GameStops to track down PS5 bundles because apparently she just happened to come across one at our closest location. And I eventually wound up deciding to get a PS4 Pro at a different location because, yeah, not the greatest idea. But after getting that PS4 Pro, he was very good about it was very nice to do all that for me. If you're watching this, I just want to say again, I appreciate that. Even though I sold that PS4 Pro less than a month later to help another friend get his PS5 at our local GameStop, because I actually found out about the restock event the night before from an email, and so I let that friend know who wanted a PS5. Hey, if you want to get a PS5, I can help you get that bundle. I'll take the bundle items that you don't want, and I'll trade in that PS4 Pro because I happened to be able to get my hands on a PS5 directly from Sony. that week. Literally, the day before we went out and went on that whole adventure where I traded in the PS4 Pro. He traded in a bunch of other games. I kept the GameStop gift card, extra controller. I think those were the only two items that I kept because he got the system, obviously, and the copy of Elden Ring because I got the one that didn't have a disk drive. So that would have been useless to me, even though I think the total from my PS4 Pro, I could have been like, hey, I get all the things that are not the system itself because that's how much my PS4 Pro's trade credit covered. However, again, the disc copy of Elden Ring would have been completely useless to me. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take the gift card and the controller, which we both mutually agreed on to do that. The point is, there is some level of transaction, but if you enjoy the process of, if you enjoy doing things like that with friends, I mean, look, he would have had to wait way longer to get a PS5 if it weren't for me. There's like an underlying level of transactional in everything. More about the spirit of friendship and all of that. So, on that note, I'm going to leave it here for the video. You let me know in the comments down below whether you agree that society needs to do better on separating platonic and romantic love, clearly defining the two. Maybe we should just always put the, maybe we need a prefix for each type so that we don't have to say the three-syllable words for each of them every single time. Like Rolov or uh what was the other one? Platlove, short for romantic and platonic respectively. You let me know what you think in the comments down below. Give this video a like, show this video a little love. See what I did there? And subscribe for daily videos. Show this channel some love, and I'll see you soon.